Welcome once again to the podcast. I'm Dr. Matthew Croston. Today I want to actually discuss an interview I just gave to Metro International, the world's largest international free daily newspaper, published in over 100 major cities in over 20 countries across Europe, North and South America, and Asia. So shout out to Metro International. Thank you very much for thinking of me and wanting to present a very urgently prepared article, as they put it, on the case of the FBI and Trump, including the dismissal of James Comey and any possible connections between Trump and Russia that may have influenced that decision. So I want to just go over the brief questions that I was given and discuss with all of you, of course, my answers. First question was, what do we know with some certainty about this case? I unfortunately had to tell them that it's something of a trick question because I think there's very little we know with quote-unquote certainty about the firing of James Comey as the head of the FBI and President Trump. While it is true that the President of the United States has the right to hire and fire the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation by law, there is also a very important structural reason in American politics as to why the FBI director is given a 10-year term. It is to hopefully remove the director from the temptation or need to feel any type of political pressure or to him or herself feel compelled to politicize his or her position. It is meant to be a position outside of the standard political environment of America, and that is indeed an incredibly important thing in American intelligence. We do not want our intelligence community politicized. Comey, in fact, got into hot water in the fall for these very reasons, as supporters of Hillary Clinton felt he was politicizing his own office, or at least allowing his own personal political views to influence his professional decisions. And while he always, then and now, flatly denied this at all times, it's of course ironic that President Trump has now basically tried to claim Comey had to be let go for some of those very reasons, the very reasons he absolutely loved trumpeting on the campaign trail when he was running against Mrs. Clinton. So I'm not certain we will ever truly have the unadulterated story on the Comey firing, simply because it was not illegal for the president to remove him from office unless there can be definitive proof that it was done in order to obstruct an investigation into his supposed ties to the Russian Federation. But I'm personally skeptical that any obvious smoking gun evidence of such collusion is or will be available for public access, and it will likely not ever truly be found. Second question was, there have been appearing some candidates for leading the FBI. Who's the main candidate? Has the designation been approved by Congress? Right now, I think it's still a bit too early to fully predict how many names will formally be on the list, though to be certain the initial list is going to be somewhat long, likely as many as 15 names deep. The rumor I want to focus on is something that I've been hearing, and I find it utterly fascinating, which is that, and it apparently has some fairly solid support from major Republican voices in Congress, including supposedly Mitch McConnell. And that choice is none other than Merrick Garland. Now, if that name sounds familiar to any of you, it's because he was the man nominated by none other than President Obama at the end of his second term to replace the late Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court, and who was subsequently unfairly and rudely blocked from having his day by congressional Republicans, who simply did not want Obama to name a new member of the Supreme Court just before leaving office. While technically a Democrat, Garland has always been a fairly moderate voice based on his judicial history and judicial opinions. The only reason he ran into such interference with the Supreme Court nomination, never, as I said, actually getting his day in court, as it were, to answer questions on Capitol Hill, was not because of his history or personal positions, but just because of the horribly partisan environment in Washington at the end of Obama's second term. It would be therefore unfathomably ironic if Republicans are the ones to turn around now and do a solid, as we say in America, for Garland, naming him the director of the FBI, as to me, which is something almost as kind of an apology for his unjust treatment with the Supreme Court process. So you're not going to be a judge on the Supreme Court, but your consolation prize, Mr. Garland, is to be director of the FBI. Only in America. Third question was, what is the future of the investigation about the implications of Russia in the election of November? This investigation right now is actually taking just when you think it wouldn't be possible to take another surrealistic turn, it's taken still more of a surrealistic turn on the heels of President Trump meeting in the Oval Office this week with Russia's foreign minister and the Russian ambassador to the United States, where he allegedly disclosed highly classified information to them about certain operations and or tactics used to fight the Islamic State by an independent third party. Now, the president and his team have so far simultaneously offered two contradictory explanations. First, a flat denial that he revealed such information, and then second, that as president he has the right to disclose classified information where and when he deems fit. Alas, as is the nature of this new presidency, no one in the White House seems to realize that these two explanations actually work completely at cross purposes to each other. And while technically true that the President of the United States has far greater leeway than any other government official when it comes to revealing classified information for strategic purposes, this is traditionally done very carefully and through intensive multi-party discussions and consultations involving the intelligence community at least, and this was clearly not done. There are two other, though, less publicized aspects to this new potential scandal that I find fascinating. First violation, quote-unquote violation, was that the classified information came from a third party. Now, in standard, let's just say in this case, say it was information that came from Saudi Arabia in fighting special operations and tactics they were using in fighting the Islamic State. Well, in standard procedures, the revealing of that third-party information by a president of the United States would only take place when it comes with the express consent of that third party, which everyone seems to agree here Trump did not have. The reason this is so important is because if you break this unspoken rule, it disrupts the most crucial element of intelligence cooperation, intelligence collaboration, the element of trust. If a third party believes it can't rely on the United States to keep secret the things it deems need to be kept secret, then they'll simply stop sharing information. Now, it seems his flexibility, Trump's flexibility, is more substantial if discussing such information, third-party information, with a noted ally. That's what leads us to the second aspect. The second aspect not being discussed at all in the United States is that the president is considered in violation of these unspoken rules if you reveal that information to an adversary, quote-unquote. So this leaves me a fascinating question that's not being discussed. What if Trump does not consider Russia an adversary at all, but rather an ally? Who makes this decision, adversary or ally? Is it just the president? Is it the American media? Is it Congress? Is it the American public? These questions have never been considered because, well, quite frankly, never before have we had a president seem to act so carelessly and flippantly with intelligence traditions, procedure, and information. Finally, the last question, very open-ended one, was, what's next with this? Honestly, what's next is anyone's guess. But one thing seems certain if we go by the first 100 days of Trump's presidency. We are clearly, my fellow Americans, not yet done with the three-ring circus that is the administration and the behavior of the 45th President of the United States and apparently just about everyone on his administrative team.